Life for me growing up was very dysfunctional. Lots of fighting, lots of arguing daily, verbal, emotional, and seldom, but still existing, physical abuse. And that's because we can only do with the tools that we're given, with the tools that we have, with the tools that are provided to us. If we don't go out and establish new tools, we will constantly be using the same ineffective tools. And so my parents did the best that they could. I will say that, the absolute best with what they had. But that established a lie within me from a very young age that I was weak. And around this time too, at a very young age, I was also molested by my neighbor, which caused a string of events that would confuse me even more sexually. Sexuality needs to be addressed effectively. When it's addressed ineffectively, man, that really messes you up in a lot of ways. So that being said, the lie that I believed in the back of my head was, Josh, you're weak. And that's what I carried on throughout my life. In high school, I didn't have very many friends. I attended church and I was in youth group and stuff like that, and I considered those definitely friends. But at high school itself, I felt like more of an outcast. Still reinforced the fact that I was weak, especially being bullied. I was definitely bullied in middle school and in high school. I tried out sports. That didn't work out. I weighed like $145, soaking wet. And I tried football, and I got tossed around like a rag doll, as you can imagine. So I worked for this lady, French lady down the street named Odette, throughout the summer and spring. And I would mow her lawn, and one day she said, Josh, I have a gift for you. And I go, okay. And I walk inside and she hands me this brown paper bag, and in it are 2-gallon jugs of Canadian Mist whiskey. I was overjoyed. I was like, heck yeah. So I take this stuff home and I put it in the bottom drawer of my dresser, and I drank regularly. After school, I would mix it with whatever. Water, orange juice, anything. And whenever I didn't go to school, for those of you that knew me my senior year, I barely graduated because I was very depressed and very much so believing that lie that I was weak. You know, if you believe that you're weak on a core level, it makes you not want to try. Then after high school, still involved in church, they had recently started something called 1 Year Mission. It was an internship through the church that I was attending at the time. A lot of the folks that were in 1 Year Mission with me, I knew very well before 1 Year Mission. Some of them I grew to know very well through that internship. Still amazing friendships. I would still count them very much as friends. I would still take a bullet for each and every one of you guys. I learned there what community was. That was the first time that I was able to really attack that lie that if people really knew me, they would leave. And I divulged a lot of things that were shameful to me, that I hid. And they showed me what grace looked like. They didn't change their view on me. They didn't treat me any different. And that was so freeing, absolutely freeing. And that's what Satan doesn't want people to see. He wants you to stay locked up your whole life. There's one thing we can't get back. We can get money back. We can get things back. But we can't get our time back. This is all we got. One of the things in 1 Year Mission was they required that you go through a workshop called Grace Adventure. It was comprised of 4 journeys, and it's amazing. To this day, I still count Grace Adventure as one of the paramount things in my life that made me who I am today. It showed me things that otherwise I would not have learned, possibly. It was through Grace Adventure that I finally learned what strength looked like. All this time I had believed that I was weak, and I finally saw what strength looked like. And that was incredible, to be able to behold that not just around me, but see that in other people and in me. For the first time in my life, I saw myself as strong, as capable. And because of that, I learned many new tools for life. That's one of the things that gave me new tools so that I don't have to use the tools that I was given from a young age. And that was groundbreaking for me. I learned that I could learn. I learned that I could develop and gather new tools, and that was amazing. After that, I joined the Army, and I acted on that strength that I knew that I possessed. I grew really close with God during that time, especially basic training and AIT, because I was outside of my comfort zone. And that's where true growth occurs, is whenever you're stripped of your comfort zone. I could feel him leading me every day. It was so cool. Then after that, I got out of basic training at AIT. I went to my unit in the Army out of Topeka. And then I started dating a girl that I knew in high school. And just for the purpose of keeping it objective, I'm going to leave names out of everything. And I further acted on that strength. You know, I provided strength in that relationship. And that was the first real relationship where I was able to do that. Like very many firsts, I didn't do well with it. I acted also on many insecurities because I still had old tools. Grace Adventure didn't give me everything I needed. It's not God. It gave me a lot of good things, but I still had lots of insecurities that I acted out of. And in fact, the girl I was dating, was my God at the time. I put her in that place and worshiped her in certain ways. Then one day, I received a call I was on the worship team at my church. I received a call from the worship leader saying, "Hey Josh, me and the head pastor and a couple other people would like to meet with you after service on Sunday and talk with you." And I felt a little uneasy. I felt a little ganged up on. I was like, whoa, hold on. If it's that serious, I get it. I'm willing to listen, but why can't you just talk to me one-on-one? I didn't understand. So I was reluctant. I said, "No, I'd rather meet with you on your own, by yourself, if that's okay." She said, "No, it's not okay." And still don't know why, but I don't know why it wasn't okay. But she said, "Okay, well then we won't meet." And I called her back after feeling convicted about an hour later and said, "Forget it, I'll meet." All right, so after church, I met with them and they said, "Josh, we deem that you are out of community. Because of that, we're removing you from the worship team temporarily. We would ask that during this time you pray and seek the Lord." And I found out that it was instigated by my best friend at the time, my best friend growing up. I don't really know how to determine what a best friend is, to be completely honest with you. A close friend. God is my best friend. But I found out that it had been really orchestrated behind the scenes by my close friend. And I felt so betrayed because I hadn't been given the opportunity to defend myself, to explain myself. It was talked about, acted on, and I had no say. And man, that really wounded me. I'd been acting on all this strength. You know, I thought that I'd been doing a good thing, and oh man. So that really created a deep wound, and it further reinforced what was in my head, still kind of clinging on, that I was weak, that I wasn't worth talking to, wasn't worth approaching because I was weak. And then after that, the relationship that I was in, the dating relationship, was pretty tumultuous. We had been fighting quite a bit. It's because the Lord really wasn't in it, not truly. And so we broke up and kind of went our separate ways. And that provided a sense of relief, just because I wanted the fighting to stop. Everything was just such a whirlwind at that time. So it was a relief, but I also just felt so lost because I put her in the place of God. I mean, duh, you know, when that was removed from me, my goodness. Because of the betrayal that I felt and because of everything that was going on, I started really mistrusting Christians, people that called themselves Christians. And because of that, really started mistrusting God. proverbially flipped him the bird and went my own way. Started sleeping around, started drinking really heavily, started using drugs now and again. And I lived that life for a long time, you know, living for myself, would work, go out, drink during the week even, wake up hungover, go back to work, do drugs every once in a while, sleep around. And then one day, the roommates that I was living with, we all went out to Longview Lake. And because one of our friends was having, like, he was a DJ, and he was playing some music, and so that sounded real nice to go out and listen to music with some friends. And so we did. I saw this cute girl laying on the dock at Longview Lake, and so I laid down next to her. Left enough room for Jesus, don't worry. But I laid down next to her. And we just started talking. I can't remember exactly what about. I think we were maybe referencing, we were just talking about our lives, how things were going, what we thought. And it was nice. And then after that, I had heard that she was potentially moving down to Texas with her family. And any thought of, that was the first time in a while that I was like, I really want to pursue a relationship. And then she was moving down to Texas, I heard, and all of those dreams were kind of gone. So I gave that up. And then one day I came back from work, and I see her walking down the driveway, my driveway, at the place that I was staying at. She goes, Josh, hey, we're going to IHOP. You should come. And I'm like, I had just eaten, so I was like, nah, I'm really not hungry. Good to see you, though. My goodness, what the heck? I thought you were in Texas. No, I'm not in Texas, obviously, because I'm standing here, but you should really come to IHOP. And I'm like, I don't know if you heard me, but I just ate, and I just got done with work. I'm tired. I'm going to go in and change. And she goes, come to IHOP. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to IHOP. It was at that time, with a couple of my roommates present even, that we started talking, and I asked her out on like a casual lunch date. Her name is Kayla Ann Maslow, and we've been dating for almost 5 years now. She's the love of my life, and I can't put in words how she has been integral in my life, in these changes that have occurred over the past few months. Her grace, her understanding, her self-discipline and control in times where I was irate, showed me what Jesus' love looks like. And that's amazing. So we started dating at that time, but I was still running from God. Very lukewarm, as I would call it. Kept drinking and really thought that I had it under control. This perpetuated for years, like as we were dating. Going to church, yeah, on Sundays and stuff like that. Having convictions, but still drinking. Like definitely living for myself. Because of that, me and her had quite a few dysfunctional times and arguments. Many of our close friends know intimately. And they were all related to alcohol, but I just didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to look at that part of me. And then my parents, after 27 years, decided to get a divorce. And that's a whole different talking point. That caused me to really question and mistrust my mom at that time. After that, I was still drinking. One day, I was driving my car home after drinking. I did this frequently. I drove off the road that day. And I wrecked my car. Thankfully, I didn't flip it. I drove off the road, I hit the grass, and my transmission was yanked out from underneath my car. And I remember coming to like, what the heck happened? I blacked out. I had no idea what was going on. But by the grace of God, I ended up in the median between like traffic this way, and then there was like a triangular median. I was in the fat part of that triangle. I was just getting my bearings whenever I see cop lights behind me. And I'm thinking, oh no, this is it. Like, I can't hide this. There's nothing I can do. Nothing that I can do to play this off. He comes up, have you had anything to drink tonight? Yes. Long story short, he pulls me out of the car. He puts me in the back of his cop car. He calls me a tow truck. Puts me in that tow truck and drives me home. But I still kept drinking. Just at a lesser level. I said, you know what? I went out and got a new car, and I counted it like a blessing in disguise. Oh, all this was meant for me to get a new car. Thank you, God. And then Veterans Day last year, 2019, November 12th, I'll never forget it as long as I live. I went out to go get some free food, because on Veterans Day you get free food if you're a veteran. And I walk into this place, and it's a bar and grill, and I ask if they have any Veterans Day specials. Once those words leave my mouth, Veterans Day specials, the veterans that were there at the bar said, oh my God, man, did you serve? Hey, what branch? Hey, me too. Before you know it, they're buying me shots, drinks are flowing, and I am hammered. Again. And I hop in my brand new car. When I say brand new, I mean I'm driving a 2019 Volkswagen Jetta, new car smell, 5-speed manual transmission, my absolute dream car. And I hop in it hammered, and I drive home. And Kayla had to take care of me. And it was then I woke up the next day, took the day off work, felt terrible. It was that next day that I finally admitted outwardly something that I had been wrestling with inwardly for a long time. You see, my mom is an alcoholic. My mom's mom was an alcoholic. My mom's dad was an alcoholic. And my mom had just done some things that I didn't agree with in the divorce. And I desperately did not want to be like her, just like she desperately did not want to be like her mom. So I avoided the term alcoholic for a long time, too long. And I finally admitted that outwardly, that I had trouble with drinking. I used it and abused it. And that was that. Finally admitting that outwardly, I learned at that time I learned what it means whenever the Bible says, when I am weak, he is strong. And I learned what it meant to come to rock bottom, because that's your weakest point. When you come to the end of yourself, then God can work. And that's what I had to do. And that's when I started rekindling my relationship with Jesus. I started to see the fruits of the Spirit again in my life. I started going to counseling regularly with a woman named Diane. She's amazing, incredible. Man, when they say the truth will set you free, it's absolutely true. Try it, test it out, and tell me that you experienced something different. After that time, I started adopting a mentality and a lifestyle of radical honesty. So if I say things that sound a little wonky during this testimony, during this video, just know that I'm doing my best to be radically honest. I don't want to hold back. I have an issue with pride where I want to look cool and I want to tell a story that's this big when really the story is this big. Kayla and I had just come back from a trip, and I was feeling very anxious. In fact, having panic attacks, multiple in a day, and that hadn't happened ever. And I knew that something was up. I had struggled with panic attacks, just the sudden realization that something isn't right, and then that cycle, that downward spiral that you go in. Those that have suffered from them know what I'm talking about. Even the happiest things in life at that time aren't happy. And so I was having anxiety, and I say to Kayla, I'm like, I'm gonna go hop in the shower real quick, and that's what I did to kind of just release the tension and the anxiety. I felt the voice of God. I heard the voice of God, not audibly, but I was so overwhelmed. I felt exposed because there was something in my life still that I had carried since I was 12 years old, and that was my addiction to pornography. When I was 12 years old, I was with my mom and my brother in a Barnes & Noble, and they went out to leave, and I said I had to go to the bathroom, so I do so. I go to the bathroom, and in the stall, somebody had brought in like a pornographic magazine, and my 12-year-old self picks this thing up, and boom, fireworks go off in my head. So not only was I exposed to sexuality in a twisted way from a young age, but now I'm seeing it on paper, adults doing this, and that further reinforces that this is okay. So ever since I was 12, I would explain away pornography. It's normal. Everybody does it. It's just a phase. It's not that bad. What it was doing was it caused me to live a double life. I was lying to everyone, every single person that I came in contact with, to appear holy. I didn't want to be weak. That's what I was avoiding. I didn't want to admit again that I was weak. But the weaker we are, the stronger He is. Remember that. Pornography and pornography addiction is not talked about enough in the church. It just is not. I looked up a statistic from the most recent study about church-going men, just men. I'm sure women struggle with it too, so don't discount that. And also people outside of the church struggle with it as well, probably more so. But these numbers that I have are for men, for people that go to church. 68% of regularly church-going men, 68% view porn regularly. 52% of pastors view pornography regularly. Guys, forget coronavirus. This is the real pandemic. God gave us sex as a gift. It says that marriage is a representation of Christ and the church. What more would Satan want than to attack that very thing that gives us a clear resemblance of what Christ is to the church, of what is symbolic of that? After that, I joined. I was like, I'm done with this. I just felt so convicted. I felt exposed. I told Kayla. That was super painful. But the very next day, I joined a group called Conquer. It's the Conquer series. And that has changed my understanding of pornography and what it does, of addiction and what it does to the mind, physiologically, truly. That's a whole different video. But I heard somebody in one of these videos say that they wanted God to take away the private them. You see, in addiction, there's always a private and a public person. It's always split down the middle. And I had thought that in my own life. I prayed, God, just take away this private me. That's how I thought I had it under control. He's going to take it away. It's a phase. God is all powerful. He's just going to take it away. And what God spoke to this guy that said that changed me forever. God said, that's the you that I died for. Why would I take that away? That's why I sent my son. Is for that dirty, broken, torn person. Not the public person that you portray as perfect. I decided from that point to literally run from it. Not literally, but run from it vehemently. And so I went so far as to even put locks on my phone. And I gave the password to Kayla. It's like, here, you put the password in, I'm done. I'm completely done, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. And that's the point that we have to come to with addiction. Whatever it takes, I'm done. Because the risk is way worse than what I could stand to gain by continuing with that addiction. From then on, it's still, that even perpetuated my pattern, my lifestyle of radical honesty. And then, ever since I had joined the Army, I had been using nicotine. During this whole time, I had been using nicotine. Cigarettes, and then I stopped and went to chew, and then I went back to cigarettes, and then I stopped and went to chew again, and then my most recent was I used these non-tobacco nicotine pouches called Zen. And I would pop these things in probably 3 or 4 times a day. But I had always been addicted to nicotine ever since the Army. That was the most difficult addiction for me to throw off, for me to stop. Because I heard God say one day, Josh, I want to take this away from you. If you're willing, I want to take this away from you too. To give you freedom from this. God's not in the business of taking things away from us, guys. He doesn't want to hinder us. He wants to help us. He wants to show us the freedom on the other side of those things that we think are helping us. It's our understanding that gets in the way most times. That was the most difficult to give up, was nicotine. I wrestled with that for days, weeks. And Kayla the whole time reinforced the fact that, Josh, I love you. You know, when you're ready, I know that you have the strength through God to be able to stop that. I love you no matter what. I love her. Such a great heart. So one day I felt him say that, and I said, okay, God, I don't know if I can, because I had tried before and I got really bad headaches, and I eventually went back. I was willing to stop, and I stopped, and I threw my nicotine away, and I didn't get headaches. And I've been nicotine free now for about 3 weeks. I didn't realize, but on the other side of nicotine addiction, man, did I ever realize how much I was using that to avoid not only negative emotions, but positive ones too. I did not like emotions, and I'm still figuring out exactly why. That's something that God is working on me through counseling and with the Conquer group, the accountability group that I'm in, and through just people that I'm closely connected with, helping me understand why emotions are so uncomfortable for me. I had a life reflection moment and a conviction of how I was spending my time in my life. And that's when I picked up the book Crazy Love. And that reinforced everything that I was feeling, that reinforced and expounded upon everything that I was going through. The love of Christ, the calling on us to be disciples, what that looks like, what it doesn't look like, what we have to do. I now have a deep understanding of what it means to be a disciple. For the longest time, I had thought that it was out of grasp. You know, we think about Stephen and James and Peter and John and all these disciples and Paul, all these disciples that, you know, did amazing things in the Bible. I mean, even the worst, the murderer, Paul, he murdered Christians, has the most books in the Bible. God gave him the most books in the Bible. And still I missed it. We miss it. We think it's out of grasp. We look at these people, these disciples, and go, wow, they did amazing things at Pentecost, and they did amazing things. Wow, they were killed for their faith. Wow, that's amazing. All right, I'm going to go have a cheeseburger. Have a nice day, guys. That was really convicting. Woo. Yeah, all right. But we don't let it change us. If I'm going to say that I'm a disciple for Christ, which is what I'm called to be, either I have two choices. I can go back to gratifying my flesh and go back to inevitably my addictions, or I can throw off everything that hinders, like it says in the Bible, and run that race that's set before me. And the biggest thing that I see that hinders is comfort. It gave me a whole new perspective to that song that is pretty cliche, but I think we all know. I have decided to follow Jesus, no turning back, no turning back. Once you make a true decision in your heart, this is what it means to have a heart decision. It should change your life. So for my Christian friends, I have some questions for you. We all know the verse, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. We know that verse, John 3:16. It's the most memorized verse, but we miss a huge part, a key part of it. For God so loved the world that he gave. Guys, if we do love him, if we love God too, we ought to give too. Not some, not part of our lives, not the comfortable parts, but all. Search yourself. I would ask you guys, beg you guys to search yourself. Do you run towards comfort, or do you run to Jesus? And be kind to yourself. This is not to shame you, but to truly introspectively have a time where you can look at yourself and examine yourself. Are there parts of the Bible that you resist and you don't like? There may be parts of God that you don't like too, because. And then because of that, I would ask, do you truly know God? If we're resisting parts of him, do we truly know him? Or are we just choosing the parts of him that we like? And then how do we do that in other relationships too? If God asked you today, what have you done with what I gave you? What would you say? Where your treasures are, there your heart will be also. That's what it says in the Bible. Where's your heart? Is it in money? Is it in what people think? Is it in where you're going to be in 5 years, or where you want to be in 5 years? Is it in your family, in your relationship? A good test of this is honestly answering the question, if God asked you to give up everything today, everything you have, and follow him, would you do it? No matter what that looks like. Would you do it? That's what it looks like. That's what it means to be a disciple of Christ. It says, I think in Luke, one of the epistles, it says those that are not willing to give up everything they have, or I think it says those that do not give up everything they have cannot be my disciples. For those of you that are watching that don't yet know Jesus, I want to talk with you now for a bit. It's not easy, like the church may make it sound. In fact, it says in the Bible, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, they're talking about the day of judgment, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name? Have we not cast out demons in your name? Have we not done many wonders in your name? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. You don't pray a prayer and then go on living life as you did and reap the benefits of heaven. It's also not by good works alone. Good works alone, how we deem them. It starts with first accepting and acknowledging that God is God. And I'll explain that here in a second. To the extent that we can, he wants us to know him and understand his ways. He doesn't hide from us. That's what science is. It's the explanation of his creation. Think about this, though. I want you to close your eyes. We are, wherever you're at, now kind of zoom out. You see the globe. You're in space. Look around you. You're on the third rock from the sun. This massive star. Now zoom out a little bit more. You're in the solar system. Zoom out a bit more. This solar system is now in the Milky Way galaxy. Zoom out even more. And this galaxy is in the midst of a giant, incomprehensible universe. Guys, we know more about space than we do about the oceans here on Earth. So I just want you to grasp the reality that God is God. It's incomprehensible. We can't fully understand him. We can't fully understand God's thoughts and the way that he works, though, because our understanding is limited. Our understanding is human. God's understanding is infinite. Some of the things he knows, we literally don't possess the capacity to know. There is no way, even if we ask the right questions, that we would know, because we are not God. That's the first thing that you need to understand, is God is God. Secondly, you must believe that by him and through him, all things exist. Yes, I'm talking about even the house you live in. Yes, the car you drive. Yes, the money that you possess. Yes, the job that you have. Yes. Everything that you have has been orchestrated by him. Why? Because he is God. Then you must acknowledge that your sin deserves hell because God is just. Now, before you go into shame. That is what God says. Just like murder on earth deserves jail time, prison time, sin deserves hell. That's the way that God made it. We can wish that it wasn't that way, but that will further separate us from God. We must accept it. It says that all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. We all have. Every single one. He loves you because he created you. But he hates sin because that separates us from him. He created us to be in communion with him. He created us to have a relationship with him. And sin allows that to not happen. And then comes Jesus. And again, I'll quote that verse, John 3:16. For God so loved the world, for God so loved you, that he sent his one and only Son to die for your sins, so that whoever believes in him, truly heart believes, will not go to hell, but will have everlasting life with him in heaven. He made it possible again. A true realization of that gift on the cross should be a motivation to live your life differently. If it's not, I would question whether or not you truly believe it on a heart level. And then after that, spend your time with people that believe the same thing. You will know them by their fruit. And that's love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Those people that exude those qualities are disciples as well. And then buy a Bible and read it every day. That's your guide to life. So realize who he is. Realize that everything we have is because of him. Seek him above all. Do well with what he gives you. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. And then don't forget this. Share this good news. It says, go make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. That's what we're called to do as disciples. Lastly, guys, I wanted to address these troubling times. I just want to encourage you all to remain in Jesus. Some say, why would God allow this virus to happen? Why would he allow murder? Why would he allow divorce? First of all, guys, God works all things for the good of those that love him. Not some things, all things. Yes, even the things that we deem as bad. These things are allowed oftentimes by our free will. Keep that in mind. It's not God that maybe sends this. It's because he allows free will. And he allows free will because I would ask you the question, would a loving God really control us? Would that be really loving? Would a loving parent control his kids? I would say no. A loving parent would allow them to learn and show them grace. There's a quote on Darkness by Barbara Brown Taylor that goes, I have learned things in the dark, things that have saved my life over and over again, that the light could have never brought me, bringing me to one single conclusion, that I need the darkness just as much as I need the light. God, we're tempted more often than not to run towards those things that are comfortable, what I would consider light. It's difficult, but it is possible to accept with open arms those things that are dark, those discomfortable things, those uncomfortable things. Like I said at the beginning, there's no way that you can grow. Growth does not occur inside of a comfort zone. It only occurs outside of a comfort zone, and that's what this virus is causing in all of us. It's our narrow understanding, guys, that we judge God's lack of action. Why don't you just come down and fix this virus? Why don't you just do this? Well, when you have your own universe, then you can do what you want. But as long as God is on the throne, he's faithful to complete his promises. He's faithful. There's a verse that I've been clinging to this whole time. And it goes, I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. The things that are going on right now, the temporary pain that we're going through, is not even worth comparing to the eternal glory that we will have in heaven. We are but a blip. You know what will happen, guys? This may be a harsh reality, but when we die, and we all will, 50 years after that, nobody will know that you existed. The rare few that do, wonderful. Maybe 1,000 years after that, they won't. This is temporary. If you can put a time stamp on it, it's temporary. If going through pain and suffering on this earth means we get to be with him in eternity, it's worth it. And I believe that's why he allows it to happen. Because of our narrow viewpoint, we see a God as unloving and unjust, a God that lets us go through pain as unloving and unjust. And I think that's just narrow thinking. So keep in mind though, guys, whenever we hurt, he hurts too. But controlling us would rob us of the grace that he has for us, of that grace that is to come. So to close out, I love you all. I am going to be taking a break, an extended break from Facebook. I will still be checking Facebook Messenger, so if you would like to get a hold of me on there and ask me any questions or anything along those lines, feel free to reach me on Messenger. And I'll be starting a YouTube channel called Vitamin Veritas that I'm really excited about. Not for money whatsoever. I don't even know how you make money on YouTube. It's just to share the goodness that I'm experiencing through the Lord to you guys. So yeah, thanks for watching.